economist, and he's going to help us demystify the mid-year budget. Doc, you're welcome to iCulture TV, Radio Culture, sir.
Thank you very much, Kwesi.
Very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Doc, let's go straight into it. Mid-year budget, what's your general read? What we've heard the government's ambitious projections, of course. We've also been told how broke the kitty is. In between the two, and then hearing the mid-year budget, what's your general read?
Well, thank you very much. And let me say hello to your listeners as well. And nice seeing you for the first time as well.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll be speaking a lot more from here on. Thank you, sir.
Definitely. Yes, we look at the projection from initially when the government read the budget, and then we look at the budget review, what has changed, and so on. Now, if you look at the time the NDC government took over in January 2025, we all knew before the election that things were not really good. The economy wasn't on the right footing, and that was obviously demonstrated by the kind of voting that went on. And then government took over and things began to get into shape gradually. So we began to see that the city was appreciating from maybe March they're coming. And then we realized that, okay, if the city is appreciating, then prices of fuel will be affected as well, because we are net importers of fuel. Then anytime the dollar is coming down, it will help the fuel price in Ghana to go down. And then we were all expecting the mid-year budget for the minister to tell us exactly what is happening. And then he came to tell us that, well, the city that is appreciating is not just coincidence, and that there are things that they are doing. And so the city appreciation or stability from now on is going to be very sustainable, meaning that going forward, the city may not depreciate to the level it was before December. We don't have to kid ourselves that the city will not depreciate. It will depreciate, but maybe not to that extent. And the minister also made us aware that contrary to what we all thought, that the government wasn't spending. That is why the city has been appreciating. The government, the minister made us aware that, yes, they are not doing much project, but they have been spending a lot of money as well when it comes to the first quarter, how much they projected to spend. And from the figures given to us, about 80% of what they 85% of what they projected to spend for the first quarter has been spent.
So, Doc, we'll get into the details of that. For now, though, I just want to generally pick your brains on your general read. Does the media budget inspire confidence in you? You as an expert, do you trust what was presented to us?
To be honest, yes. For me, it inspires confidence, and it gives me hope that we should expect better things to come in the next few to the end of the year, and then the ensuing year, because normally we need to build on foundation. If the foundation is not strong, then it will be difficult to have a very strong and reliable building. But from what I see, I could see a very strong foundation. And so the mid-year budget review gives us hope that if things do not change, I always have my own opinion about our leaders. But why I'm more optimistic this time around is that we are still in the IMF program. And so I'm very optimistic. I will be pessimistic.
Meaning that the IMF program is going to be a sort of check on government spending, etc. Correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
If we're not in the IMF program, I wouldn't have the confidence that I have now. But because we're in the IMF program, I have this confidence. Because basically, anytime we go into the IMF program, they make sure that we do the right thing. But once we are out of it, then we begin to do whatever we want. And that is where we tend to have all the difficulties that we have, because the political will to do the right thing, we tend to ignore when nobody is looking at us.
I see.
So,
But IMF,
yes.
IMF aside though, what do you see as some of the things that this government is doing right that's possibly reflecting in a positive outlook for you?
Well, for me, some of the waste in the system have been cut off. So that's the first point in terms of government
spending.
Government spending on the government machinery itself. For example, you talk of fuel to ministers, appointees, and all the people who are associated with the party, and all those expenditures have been cut off. And we keep saying that Ghana, if we're able to cut the waste in the system, if you talk about, let's say, the number of presidential staffers that we tend to have, at times you could have over 1,500 presidential staffers, and you ask yourself, what do they really do? You have a special aide who also has an aide, special aide having a special aide, and then that special aide will also have researchers and so on and so forth. So you ask yourself, what did they do? It's just job for the boys, and these are all waste in the system. So once you're able to do away with some of this waste in the system, then we see that whatever money we realize, whatever revenue is realized, no matter how small, once it's channeled to the right source, then we'll be able to make good use of the little resource that we have. So for me, cutting of the waste is one of the positive things that I believe will help the economy. The second thing is the fact that the government has decided to be prudent in terms of what we call fiscal discipline, how government have to spend, and taxation unnecessarily. We could see that government abolished some of the taxes that they believe were nuisance tax. They were not bringing in the needed revenue. Meanwhile, it's hindering people from doing what they have to do. So some of them were abolished, and the 1% fuel the energy levy was introduced. And I believe that 1% energy levy that was introduced would not be a hindrance, to any economic activity. So for me, I believe that the minister is on right track, and if all the policies the government intend doing the 24-hour, the ingredients that go into the 24-hour policy, once those ingredients begin to be, or the project begin to be implemented to generate jobs, I think the economy will be on a very good footing.
Interesting. Doc, let's listen to this, or let's watch this short clip. When we come back, I want you to react to it. Let's watch this.
Very much for this opportunity. In the first place, I think they have to present a very truthful picture of.
Let's put that back and bring it back. What's going on? It's not. One moment, Doc.
7 months. Say half a year. What I mean is that the NDC government hasn't done basically anything. And they are coming. So
they have not done.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Even if they are even keeping watch of the money.
So you don't take me out of context. Doesn't mean they are doing bad. Because they are.
You admit they are doing well.
No. They are not doing well. They are not doing bad. From my understanding of the economic situation and fiscal space, they are still forming their government. So anybody that says NDC's government is not doing well, to me, it's not being fair. Anybody that is saying NDC's government is doing well is being mischievous. Because even tomorrow, they are vetting some of their ministers. They haven't finished forming their boards. NDC government hasn't put a peso in a road fund. And it doesn't mean that they are doing bad. No. They are still at the formative stage. And
That sounds like alternative reality to me. If 7 months into a government, the government hasn't done anything, I don't understand a thing about governance. What do you see where you sit? You are the expert.
Sika is doing totally politics, so I'm not surprised. Because if you said they have not done anything, they are still forming governments. Are you saying that the economy is on autopilot running itself? No, you can't say that. Even if there are two ministers who are at post, they are working, and finance minister and all the main minister have been appointed long ago. Agencies board have been set up and they've been working. Talk, for example, he's saying that NDC hasn't done anything. Much as I would say that yes, 7 months is not so long for you to assess the actual performance. Look at the gold board, for example, that was launched. They are able to buy the gold from the individuals and the private sector, so that government will be the one to sell the gold, so that all the proceeds that would have gone outside come into the country. So if the dollar is depreciating against the CDs, because we're dealing basically about demand and supply. The more dollar we have in the economy, the less the price of dollar will be. And that is why the CD is trending in a way. So if they have set up gold board, they're able to buy gold from the small scale miners, and government is selling the gold himself and bringing in the money directly to the economy to show up our reserves. How can you say the government is not doing anything? I mean, it's just politics. Absolutely, I totally disagree with him. The government is doing very well in terms of prudence management. Because, for example, they could have said that, okay, let's talk, for example, in terms of appointment of ministers. We saw the former regime where we had over 126 ministers. This government is operating with less than 80 ministers. And that is the idea that, look, if we have ministers, we're going to have all the amenities, all the perks that go with it. We are going to reduce all those waste. Because if you look at some of the biggest economies, like the UK, for example, how many ministers run the country? Very few ministers. And so if you can have maybe a reduction of ministers up to about 40%, and you're able to even save money, you can't say the government is not doing anything. So that one is just a political talk. You can't say the government is not doing anything.
I see. All right. Now, you mentioned the gold board. Let's talk about the gold board a little bit. A lot of the success story, quote unquote, that we've been hearing has been attributed, at least in a great part, to the gold board. Is that overstating it, or is that gold board actually making the impact?
Well, you see, normally, like Dr. Baumia said, that when the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. Now, the exchange rate doesn't work in vacuum. Exchange rate simply is the price we pay for buying a currency. And in a normal demand and supply situation, if you have, let's say, food, okay, let's say you have 100 bags of rice, and you have 200 people demanding the 100 bags of rice, obviously, the seller will increase the price. So the price will go up. On the other hand, if you have 100 bags and only 50 people are demanding the 100 bags of rice, you reduce the price so that you'll be able to sell it. That's the situation. Now, the CD depreciating means that we were demanding so much dollars that we're not getting. And because the dollar wasn't in existence when businessmen needed the dollar, they couldn't find it to buy. The little available, they have to pay higher prices. So what the gold board does is to sell the gold, bring all the dollars that will be accumulated, that before it used to go to private individual or to other countries. Foreigners who are mining and selling the gold were sending the dollars to their country and having just very little amount of dollars in the country. What the gold board is doing is to make sure that they sell and bring in more dollars. So the supply of dollars will go up, and because of that, the price of dollar will come down. And that is why we can see that the exchange rate, the CD, is appreciating against the dollar. So we are not stating the impact of the gold board. That is the fundamental. So if the fundamental is being laid through the gold board, then others can also build on the success of the gold board. For example, if companies begin to take advantage of 24-hour economy, they need to bring in machinery. You are going to buy the machines, and when you convert it, it's going to be cheaper. So if before I needed, let's say, 20,000 cedis to get a machine worth $1,000, now with about 15,000 cedis, I can get the same machine. So we are using the gold board as a springboard that is helping us to stabilize the city, appreciate it, so that in terms of importing something into the economy, we'll be able to get things at a cheaper rate. And I think it's a very good thing. So we are not overestimating or overstating the importance of the gold board. They are really doing well, and that is the basis why we believe that the economy is on right footing.
I see. Now, Doc, I want you to watch a second video for me. When we come back, I need you to please react to that for me as well. Here we go. Newsroom.
I will take you to key policy initiatives. Mr. Speaker, I now present updates on key policy initiatives outlined in the 2025 budget. Right Honorable Speaker, since its establishment in April 2025, the Ghana Gold Board has initiated reforms to licensing regime that governs the local gold trading sector and introduced new aggregation system to effectively mop up gold from artisanal small-scale mining sector across the country. These measures have already yielded tangible economic benefits within the short period of operation of the Ghana Gold Board. In the first half of 2025 alone, gold export from the small-scale sector stood at 51.5 tons with an export value of approximately $5 billion. This figure far exceeds the 26.4 tons, which are with an export value of $1.8 billion from the small-scale mining sector over the same period in 2024. Mr. Speaker, simple put, gold export in tons from the small-scale mining sector for the first half of 2025 recorded about 100% increase over what was recorded in the year 2024. Similarly, the value of gold export from small-scale mining increased by about 180% for the first half of 2025 over that of the same period in 2024. Mr. Speaker, for the first time in Ghana's history, gold export from small-scale mining sector have exceeded gold export from large-scale sector.
That's where I want us to focus, because most of what I was going to ask you has already been answered by you in your previous submission. But I want us to focus on the latter part of that statement. One of the biggest problems Ghana is facing right now is the galamsey issue, obviously. Yes. At the same time, gold exports from the small-scale mining sector exceeded the major sector this year. As an economist, and I may be taking you out of your comfort zone for a little bit, can you see what do you see over there? Is that tied to the fight against galamsey, for instance?
Well, sometimes we tend to confuse the two, small-scale mining and galamsey.
That's right.
Small-scale mining is legally permitted using the right method and making sure that you do not destroy the waters. Mm-hmm. When I was young, my dad is from the eastern region, Akwatia area, and when we were young, they used to do galamsey. They go to River Brim, and they were doing this shallow. They just use shovels and stuff, and then they're able to wash and get this diamond and gold that they used to sell. We used to call it galamsey, but it wasn't on a destructive level like this. Mm-hmm. So you barely notice any water changing because they were not using machine and stuff. Now, if you really want to engage in small-scale mining, we have to do it properly, license them, make sure that they have a registered concession, and we have inspection at every point in time, making sure that anywhere that you mine, you're able to reclaim and plant trees to make the
sorry to
environment.
interrupt, but I asked this because I want to know if the Gold Board, with all its successes, have anything to do with this. For instance, because if it's, for instance, trying to barge into that sector which is unreported, right, and streamline things, just like you're saying, and then also rope in that income from there. That's where my mind is heading.
Yes.
And I have a few more questions for you. So please, if you could wrap that up for me. And
yes. So what I'm saying is that I was coming to say that the Gold Board could actually work together with the Mineral Commission and make sure that they streamline and make sure that activities are well regulated. And those who are doing the galamsey, if they can give them actual mining license and regulate them to do the right thing in the right way, so that we can mainstream all of them to become part of the legal small-scale mining, and then they'll be able to get all the gold from those areas. When that happens, they'll be able to even get far bigger quantities than they are getting now.
All right. Okay. I want you to listen to another part of Dr. Atufor's.
So, Speaker, earlier this month, President Mahama officially launched the 24-hour economy and accelerated export development program. Ghana's ambition.
Let me just go ahead and ask you the question.
Okay.
Yeah, because we would have to spend time queuing and all of that. But the question is about every contract from now on has been mandated to be transacted in Ghanaian cedis. Dr. Forson says that the president has mandated him and the Bank of Ghana say every
contract should be denominated in
has
cedis.
To be, transacted in Ghanaian cedis. Is this showboating? Is it populist politics? Or is this really something that is going to have an impact, though?
No, I don't believe it's populist. I mean, last week I was teaching money as a topic in my class, and I was defining that the money is what is generally accepted as a legal payment within a country. Okay, within a country. So when the country accepts it as money, as a legal tender, then it's money. And I always use the cedi on my slides, and they are like, "Why don't you use the pound? You are in UK." I said, "Well, because I'm from Ghana, I also want to sell my country, so I use the cedi because the cedi actually has a definition of money on it. The pound doesn't have the definition of money on it.
What does that mean? Explain that for me, please."
Yes, the cedi. If you take the Ghana cedi, they've written there, this note is issued or statutory authority, and it is legal tender for the payment of any amount.
Yes.
It is written on the Ghana cedi. The British pound is not written on it like that.
I see.
It just says, I promise to pay the bearer the value of the currency. Okay. So if it's £5, I promise to pay the bearer £5 on demand. But it doesn't define it the way the Ghana cedi defines it.
Interesting.
So it tells you that it is country specific. So Ghana has accepted that our currency for transaction is cedi. So nobody has any business pricing their things in dollars, because dollars are not generally acceptable in Ghana as a medium of exchange. And so the minister is right. They could actually make it such a way that it become enforceable, that whoever price their product in dollars should be arrested. And that will be valid.
And then we can find them in dollars then.
Because Ghana has not accepted that we should use dollar as a medium of exchange. And so, and sometimes you tend to understand why people were doing that, because people believe that the value of the cedi was depreciating so much that it becomes valueless. So if I price in the dollars, then I'll be able to maintain the value. But if really we want to stabilize our currency, then, like I said earlier, the more we demand the dollar, the more the dollar price will go up. So the less we demand, the better for us. So if things are priced in Ghana cedi, it means that we don't need the dollar to pay. So we are not going to demand the dollar. So that will make the Ghana cedi strong. So it's good. As to whether they can enforce the implementation is another thing. But if they could enforce it, I will support 100% because that is the only way we can maintain a strong cedi against other foreign currencies like the dollar, the euro, and then the pound.
I see. All right. Doc, 2 quick questions before we go. First one, Fitch rated as B minus, a far cry from the junk status that we were in not too long ago. React to that for me, please, in 7 months.
Yes, it's a good thing, but we shouldn't be too happy. For me, when we were downgraded, I was happy because we were downgraded. Because if you look at debt to GDP ratio, it was too high. I mean, there are countries like US, China, UK, they have, in terms of their debt to GDP ratio, if you look at Japan, they have about 250% debt to GDP ratio, but they have the capacity to pay. Ghana, when our debt to GDP ratio was about 104, we defaulted. And we had to give haircut to people. And so if you borrow from someone that you are not able to pay, why do you have to go ahead and keep borrowing? So when we're classified as junk status, it means that we could not go back to borrow. And I was happy because we could not borrow to increase our debt. If we were not downgraded and we had good rating in the market, we could have gone on to borrow. And by now, the debt to GDP ratio would have been around maybe 120% or 150%. But so now that we have been restored to B minus with positive outlook, is good in the market, but there should be a caveat that we should not say because now we have been reinstated to B plus, so B minus, so we are going to go into the capital market to borrow. No, borrowing. We should be disciplined and make sure that the debt that we have now, we should bring it to sustainable level. If you look at the figures the minister presented, because of the cedi appreciating, the dollar denominated debt has come down. And so we have moved from about 700 and something billion to about 600 billion debt. So we should not add it to it now. We should make sure that we manage this debt. You remember when we did the DDEP, the debt exchange program, we programmed up to 2028 thereabout to pay the debt that we owe. So I believe that we should pay all those debt first. And then, of course, somebody will say then it will be difficult to do development. If you have to do development, we should do what we call smart borrowing, a targeted loans that can repay itself. So, for example, we are going to get loan to maybe build gas processing plant, for example, or crude oil processing plant, so that project will be able to pay for itself eventually. When that happens, we call it smart borrowing because there's a source of funding. After you have used it, it will generate income to pay for itself. But we shouldn't go and borrow just to spend. You borrow to consume, and then the payment becomes a problem. So I believe that matcha is good, that we have been restored to B minus. We should not use that opportunity to go into the capital market immediately to start borrowing.
I see. But at least it's good to know that you have that opportunity.
It's good to have the opportunity, borrow, right? So that if the need arises, you can go in.
That's right. At least so you know. So exactly. At least the status is good news. Thank you very much, Doc. Now, finally, please, before we go, one thing that I've been dying or living to ask you, I'm not, looking to die. I'm, but what I'm saying really is this, though. The previous government spent a lot of money, millions of cedis and dollars or whatnot, to dissolve some banks. As part of what we heard, the minister stated that the National Investment Bank, which is a critical bank, if you ask me, has been revived. First of all, I struggled to understand why they wanted to dissolve the banks in the first place. If you can quickly, please, give us the barest reasoning why it even made sense in the first place, and then react to its resuscitation before we go, please, Doc.
Well, to be honest, some of us were not in favor of those banks that were closed or collapsed, because I always maintain that if you are doing your work very well, you are paying people at the Bank of Ghana to do supervision. Okay, so if they are doing their supervision properly with the commercial banks, they should not go into the situation that they were in. Now, somebody sat down, took all the money that we're paying them, and refused to work. And then you end up collapsing the bank without touching those people who had a responsibility to do that. Now, before you came in, a report has been made that says that we could use a certain amount to invest and then supervise them to perform effectively. You end up spending more than twice the amount you could have used to save those banks. And I keep citing an example. When we have the banking crisis in the US, Lehman Brothers, when the housing prices began to go down in the US and there was this financial crisis, the government came in, pumped money into these banks to make sure that the banks are sustained so that they can aid in development. So they had no business, to be honest, collapsing those banks and paid double how much the banks needed to have survived if people were to do their supervisory duties effectively. So for me, it was refreshing to know that if you have National Investment Bank, where you could actually get support from to help businesses. Businesses will thrive when there's capital, when there's money. Most businesses, for them to be able to do it, for example, you're talking of having export-led economy, or even if you want to do import substitution, you don't need this small capital. You have to get a big capital to do exports. Produce to meet international standard requires a lot of money, and you require your banks to have very strong assets to be able to do that. So government come in to resuscitate the NIB to fund it. I think it's a good thing. It will help, especially if the government is to take industrialization seriously and make sure that we are able to produce for export, create jobs, because export create a lot of jobs. At the same time, it brings in the needed foreign exchange as well. So I believe that it was a good thing that the minister said they were putting more money into the bank to resuscitate. Even developed countries, they do sustain their banks, making sure that they do not collapse. Because when the financial sector is collapsing, people who even have money find it difficult to send money to the banks. And if people are not saving, how do you invest? How does the economy grow and develop? So I think it's a good thing.
Fantastic. Awesome. Doc, I would love to sit in your classroom, and I would also love to have you back on the show some other time. Thank you very much.
Available.
Thank you so much. Thank you for helping us break down the media budget. The important parts that we wanted to get clarity on, you have helped us do justice to that. Thank you very much. And the best of the rest of the day to you and your family.
Thank you very much, and enjoy.
All right.